Don't know what you saying, I'm hoping they playing. My ink can be blacker than hair, still turn gold. I literally write what I'm saying. I'll put a mic in my hand just to feel like I'm super. They screaming, should put it a man.
What's going on, beautiful people? It's Grex the Great, aka your friendly neighborhood comic enthusiast, and we are back. Now today we're going to be going over that. She will be mine. Going over the Absolute Wonder Woman issue number 12. It's a certified banger, so I don't want to waste much time. But before we get into the issue itself, drop a like if you're enjoying the content. Leave a comment down below and let me know what you're thinking about Absolute Wonder Woman. If you're enjoying the Absolute universe as a whole, or just anything that's going on around DC Comics. If you're loving the videos, think about dropping a sub and becoming one of the greats. I promise we will welcome you with open arms, because we are on that road to 200 and we are almost there. Now, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump straight into this Absolute Wonder Woman issue number 12. So first page here, we start off with her in the prison maze in Area 41, where she's fighting a bunch of the menfish who work under Princess Clea. She's having a little monologue here where she says the Trident of Poseidon has a mind of his own. Fortunately, we seem quite aligned in our purpose. I can feel that it is the weapon of a god in every fiber of my being. Now, she got the Trident of Poseidon the chapter prior to this, and it's been pretty interesting so far. She's been wielding it crazy. Definitely enjoying that. So we move on to the next page. It says, Clea had a small piece of it embedded in her staff. Though no fault of the Trident, it may have helped push her over the edge. As she jumps and flips over a bunch of the menfish, she continues her monologue and says, close proximity to a tool of the gods could easily drive one mad. The Trident tells me Clea is an Atlantean. As she continues jumping over, and she's fighting alongside a Minotaur named Ferdinand that she met a couple issues ago as well. She continues her monologue and says, I had believed all Atlanteans long dead. Does this mean Atlantis itself also exists? Are there more, or is she the last of her people? Now she throws the trident here and says be many, and it spreads out and hits a bunch of the menfish surrounding Ferdinand. But she begins to see herself a little bit in Clea, where she says her home is the sea, and she's been separated from it for decades, perhaps longer. Though I'm disinclined to forgive horrific behavior under any circumstances, I cannot pretend that I don't understand the rage and desperation of being in prison. And Absolute Wonder Woman knows that all too well, as she grew up in hell. So like I said, she kind of sees herself in Clea a little bit, but she can't really forgive her for everything that she's done. So moving on, we got Wonder Woman continuing her monologue a little bit. She says, of being forcibly separated from your homeland, your people. And then we got her confronting Clea personally, where Clea gets a pretty good punch off on her. She says, you took my siren, which is stemming from an event that happened previously in a previous issue. She says, you destroyed my staff. And she hits her over the chest, and she says, now you claim my Trident of Poseidon. And then Wonder Woman speaks from the ground. She says, none of those things belong to you, Clea, and that, not me, is why you cannot possess them. And then we get Wonder Woman casting a spell on a rock here. She says, find Io. When Io exits the maze, seal it behind her. And then she just tosses it down this doorway. And then she tells Ferdinand to follow the stone to her sister Io. You know, she says she should take it with her when she exits. So Ferdinand looks at the rock, and he's like, yo, but I don't really want to leave you. And she's like, look, I'm good. You see all these menfish down here? Like, look, let me rock out. We will meet again, my friend. So she starts squaring off, and she goes back into her monologue. She says, but that was the last of my magic reserves. So we're down to just the fundamentals now. Fortunately, my fundamentals are quite strong, meaning she's ready to throw the hands right away. So she starts fighting all of the menfish, but that's when Clea jumps on her back. But she's still in her monologue. She says, thank you, goddess, for keeping me humble. And then, boom, she gets slammed to the ground. Clea starts stepping on her and everything. She's asking for control of the trident again. And that's when Wonder Woman catches her foot, because you're not about to keep stepping on her face like that. So she says, that demand nicely sums up why you fail. She's talking about her arrogance here. And then like I said, she grabbed her foot and she throws her to the ceiling, basically.
Hey, y'all, come look at this.
tosses her up directly, and then she falls back down and everything, and then she resummons the trident to her hand, and her monologue continues. It shouldn't be long now, though Clea and her army are not making any of this easier, and she knocks out all of the menfish around her, but Clea jumps on her back. And Wonder Woman's monologue continues. She says, by Hera, she's as strong as she is unreasonable. And being an Atlantean, the physical strength is definitely going to be there. So moving on, we got Ferdinand, who is chasing the magic rune rock that Wonder Woman tossed down the door, and it has finally reached Io, and they're having a little conversation here about where Wonder Woman is and whatnot, and Ferdinand basically just fills her in about what just happened in the room, and Io takes the rock, and they're getting ready to leave through the portal and whatnot. So we get back to Wonder Woman and Clea fighting, and Clea mentions that everything was fine until you got here. And Wonder Woman questions that thought. She says, but was it though? Was it really fine? And then that's where we get Wonder Woman firing a punch off, knocking Clea back, and then Clea kind of jaw checking herself, and Wonder Woman gets the time to say, you're trapped inside a prison, cut off from your natural habitat, your homeland, your own menfish. You're eating your own menfish. Like, just think about how crazy that is. And she said, and then Clea comes back and says, they heal and regenerate limbs. How else will we survive? They know it is an honor. Just to think about how deep it's gotten being in this prison, basically, you know? And then that's where Wonder Woman's monologue goes, and she says, the names we will give to things in order to make them seem reasonable. And she responds to Clea. She says, you see me as an enemy, but I am in fact your salvation, for I bring you what you ache for more than anything else. And which in theory is going to be freedom. You know, she's here to take her out of there. She can literally get her out. And Clea is still stuck in her ways. She says, water. How did you? Like, she's just lost. She's like, how did you get water in here? Like, what are you talking about? So she says, not just water, Clea, the Pacific Ocean. I flooded the maze. And that's what she says, you lie. With your cursed magic, you fool. The fishmen and I will thrive if you flooded it. And all of yours will die painfully in the dark. And then that's when Wonder Woman just replies. She says, I used no magic. I simply made a hole though Poseidon's trident was a useful ally in this effort. And then that's where Clea comes back. She says, there's an opening in the maze. And Wonder Woman confirms. She says, there is. You can simply follow me to your freedom. And then that's what Clea says, and then what? And then Wonder Woman says, then you return to whatever Atlantean home you lost when you were trapped here. You were a monster in this maze, but are you a monster outside it? I'm willing to take the chance and find out. But you will find me less accommodating if I see you are still a monster with giving your freedom, Clea. The choice is yours. And this is really respectable from Wonder Woman here. Like, she really could have just put belt to ash right now and just got it over with, but she's trying to see the best in people. So I definitely love seeing that trade out of Wonder Woman, especially in the Absolute universe. So we got her monologue continuing here. She says, I hope freeing her is not a mistake I will come to regret. What she became inside the maze may be unforgivable, especially when others like Ferdinand and Io held on to their beliefs in spite of the horrors they faced. Time will tell if she can become something else with her freedom, and it will be my burden to carry if she cannot. So this may be a recurring character here that we get within the Absolute Wonder Woman series. And then jumping out of that, we get to Io finally entering the portal here. She says, hurry, please. I'm afraid we're out of time. And that's where some of the water is starting to seep down close to the portal. So Io decides to, last minute go ahead and walk through the portal and immediately gets disintegrated. Evaporated. Just completely shocked to oblivion. And that's where we have Steve Trevor and Shorty here. They're like, yo, like, what just happened right now? I honestly have no idea what's happening. And then that's where we basically get Wonder Woman taking her passageway that she had set for herself out of the prison, basically getting back to Gateway City. And she pops out of the water. She continues her monologue. She says, you never realize how much you miss the sky until it is taken from you. That's what people, taking pictures. They're like, Wonder Woman, we love you, Diana, it's all this. And then that's when we get her looking back and looking down at Clea swimming off with her fish people. And she says, be good, Clea. Hera guides you to a better path, hoping that she chooses the path of good going forward. And I guess hopefully we will see where that goes later on, in the series. So we swap back to Wonder Woman, basically getting back to the wilds and everything, basically getting the chance to breathe. And she comes in looking for Ayo. And that's where, people are like, oh, Diana, And Steve Trevor is like, she got out. Everyone got out. And they're like, but where is she? And basically that's where they're like, look, as soon as she set foot outside the maze, like, I don't know how to explain it, but she just vanished. And then that's where we like still see the smoke pile from where she was. And Diana's just like, no. Where she goes to speak to Hecate, she says, Hecate, if I have ever pleased you, even once, a sign that she still lives, please. And that's where everybody just looks down kind of sad and almost mourning. And that's when we get the dove fly by with the branch in his mouth. And then it's basically, that's where the person who, Barbara, who should be Cheetah, she says, well, that's quite biblical. And Wonder Woman just says, thank you, goodness, and the bird flies off, basically telling her that she's safe and everything. And then that's when we get the answer to where she went. And then, boom, and with a giant crash, she pops into a place with a giant statue, and she's breathing heavy. And then that's where someone simply says, Ayo? And then Ayo looks up, and she looks up to see Queen Hippolyta right here standing in front of her. And then that's where Hippolyta says, by Hera, Ayo? And then that's where Ayo responds. She says, bless you, Hera, Hippolyta, my queen. We fear we have lost you forever, Ayo, says Hippolyta. And then she says, Hippolyta, I've seen her. I've seen Diana. She's alive. And Hippolyta, completely shocked, she says, Diana? Ring the bells, Ayo. Ring the bells. And as they ring the bells, Queen Hippolyta yells out to Themyscira, our first look at Themyscira. She says, she's alive. Diana lives. Diana lives, as all of the Amazons rejoice and praise and shout. And then that's kind of the end of this little Wonder Woman arc, and we're going to get like a little preview, which is going to be leading us into our next arc. I presume we're going to be back at Area 41, but we're going to be at the Black Site. And right here, we're going to have Veronica Cale. Now, if you're caught up with the Absolute Evil universe, the Absolute Evil storyline, you're going to know that she's basically pulling strings behind the scenes, basically a member of the Absolute Universe Justice League, and they're doing some heinous things behind the scenes and all that stuff, trying to get rid of superheroes and stopping superheroes from stopping their plans and whatnot. So basically here we have her talking to Dr. Poison. She says, as a result, the maze and the entire lower level have been lost to us, including all assets trapped inside. And then Dr. Poison says, and by assets, you mean... And then Veronica Cale snaps back, says, everything living in there, Poison. Now, Poison is, honestly, it's kind of hard to guess what side she's on, really, because she seemed like typically Dr. Poison to be a villain, but the way she was talking to Wonder Woman in a previous issue, it kind of gave her that, that feel of her not being that bad. She's basically just asking for a new suit here and whatnot. And basically what Veronica Cale is going to do here, she's basically going to gaslight and manipulate it here, really. So she says, do I need you, though? Are you certain you haven't outlived your usefulness? If that were true, you would have put me in one of your prison containment cells already. And then Veronica Cale says, but you don't fear that possibility. Is that wise? And she says, I don't fear that day, but you should. Now, moving on from this, we get Veronica Cale walking by her, I guess this is just her prison. This is where she keeps everybody locked up at. And we get to the important reveal of the chapter, of the issue, the final page reveal. We see Absolute Zatanna. And this is going to be absolutely crazy, pun intended. I need Absolute Zatanna to be absolutely bonkers. I need to know why they got my baby locked up like Hannibal Lecter. I mean, this is going to be insane beyond belief, but I'm absolutely here for it. This issue was great. I'm ready for next issue. It should be out now. Currently, I'm going to be reading that soon. This next story arc is going to be great. Like I said, this was the end of this current story arc here for Absolute Wonder Woman, and we're going to be jumping into the next one. So hopefully that's heavily Zatanna involved. I'm ready to see her full design outside of the Hannibal Lecter get up. But Absolute Wonder Woman has been amazing so far. Like I said, drop a comment. Let me know down below what you're thinking about the series. Drop a like if you're enjoying the content. But that's all I got for you here, man. Be kind, spread kindness, all of those good things. That'll be Grex the Great out. Y'all be safe out there in internet land, and I'll catch y'all next time.